Hey everyone, this is Tommy Hutson, writer of Never Sleep Again, the Elm Street Legacy, and you are listening to Elm Street Radio.
Hello, piggies. It is Deandra here. Long time no see or speak or hear or however you want to put it. It's just me tonight since our other hosts are preoccupied on Elm Street, fighting the bad guys. But I do have a guest here that's joining me. You might know him from his work on Scooby-Doo maybe a couple of documentaries such as Scream the Inside Story, More Brains, A Return to Living Dead, and his name was Jason. But more than anything, for you guys and myself, you will know his name from Never Sleep Again, the Elm Street Legacy, both the documentary and the definitive book on the first film. It is Thommy Hutson. Thommy, welcome to Elm Street Radio.
I am so glad to be here, so thank you for having me.
Oh man, I feel like I've been wanting to have you on for so long to kind of pick your brain about everything that you do, especially the world of Never Sleep Again. Everything you've done with Never Sleep Again, certainly from that amazing documentary, which has so much information on it, and then of course the book, which I love and I learned a lot from, because when you're an Elm Street fan and you're super passionate, you know a lot about the franchise and you hear a lot of rumors about the franchise, about what was, but that book really had a lot of information in it that was kind of wiping away some of the murkiness of some of those rumors and saying that's not true. Like David Warner, David Warner even was like, I don't know what they're talking about. I was never offered that role.
Exactly. That was one of the most interesting ones. And it's interesting because I discovered that really late in the game. And we had tried to talk to him for the documentary and it just didn't work out for a number of reasons. And then I did get a hold of him for the book, which was really, really thrilling. And we had this absolutely fantastic, eye-opening, super fun conversation about the whole thing. And it really was one of those wow moments, because for so long, that rumor had become fact, really. And he put that to rest, so to speak. He just said, nope, I really don't know what you're talking about. And even Wes had said, he cast him in Scream 2, but for Freddy, no. And I was lucky enough to have had the opportunity to talk to Wes, multiple times in the making of the book, and we had some great conversations. But yeah, I mean, that was one of the most fun aspects of writing the book, was taking what, everyone knew, myself included, and finding out what's really true and what's sort of the rumors that have become true. And I enjoyed that process so much. In addition to talking to people who have literally never spoken about the movie before, some of the people I found told me flat out, I've never spoken about this. I probably won't speak about it again. I'm going to tell you everything I know. I mean, the hair people and the makeup people and some of the jump rope girls. It was great. It was such an eye-opening experience, even for a super fan such as myself.
And how did you even start on that journey with the book after the documentary? First of all, what kind of compelled you to write a book only about the first film that started it all? I mean, I guess we could probably guess why you chose to do it. But then also, how did you even start? It seems like such a massive project to write about this book and to find all these people and to kind of ask the right questions.
Well, it's interesting because even before the Elm Street book came to fruition, this kind of book idea, went back to when I was a part of His Name Was Jason, and Daniel Farrens and I were talking about other potential books because Crystal Lake Memories had obviously come out as a book and done phenomenally well and is such an incredible treasure trove of information, stories, pictures, facts, anecdotes, everything. We thought, what else could possibly be done? And we sort of tossed around the idea of, what book would you do if you could do one? And what book would you do? And I had said I would love to do a book on Elm Street. And it sort of percolated for a bit. And then we ended up getting into the documentary world, in other aspects. So we did Never Sleep Again, the documentary, which was incredible and so wonderful. And if you really look at that documentary, it's really long. It's 4 hours long, covering all the movies. But if you take a real good look at the first segment on Wes's original film, it's sort of not that long. We're covering all of the big highlights and we're getting into some of the nitty-gritty stuff. But as time went on, I kept thinking there's so much more that we couldn't fit in the documentary in terms of the transcripts that we had. And there's just all these other things that just didn't fit, but were pieces to this big puzzle that I kept itching to put together. So what happened was I talked to Dan and I said, I'd love to take a look at all the transcripts and I'd love to use them and see if there's enough here to create a book. And there was a lot there, but I still needed so much more. So I just decided one day I'm going to write this book. I'm going to see if I can make it come to life. And I just interviewed, I think at the end of the day it was an additional, in addition to the people that I re-interviewed and then new people, I think it was 57 new interviews. And everything just started pouring out from there. But the interesting thing is the book did not start on only the first movie. I started writing a book on the entire franchise, and I actually have about 80% of movie 2, Freddy's Revenge, done in book form. It will probably never see the light of day, but I love that segment. I love that part of the book, I guess you could say, even though it started becoming its own thing. The first segment on Elm Street just became so big, I realized I can't do a single book on every movie. There's just too much there. I think the current book, in paperback is something like 300 pages on just the first movie. So I decided to just roll with it and keep, adding. And I'm really proud of what came together for the first movie. And I'm so happy that everyone supported it. And the cast and crew were so gracious to offer all of their thoughts and insights and stories and pictures. I would love to write definitive books on all of the movies, but I don't know that I'll be alive that long. It just takes a really long time to write all of those books, but I do love what I have on Nightmare 2. I have to say, one day maybe I'll finish it and see if there's a market out there for that.
I'm sure there will be, especially with Mark Patton releasing his Scream Queen documentary coming up here. I know that that has been in the works for a while, and I've noticed that that film is getting a lot more attention over the years, which is great. Either because of the reach of the internet, it's getting more people online, or people are just starting to say, hey, you know what? I love Nightmare 2, and I'm not afraid to show the world. So who knows? There very well might be.
I
So.
know. And I'm so excited to see the documentary. And I think you're right. I think a lot of, the ability for fans to see these things in a new light and talk about them more openly is obviously social media and the internet. But there is just so much to talk about with Nightmare 2 behind the scenes, on screen. There's a real story there. And I'm really excited to see how Mark and everyone he talks to brings that story to the surface and kind of really opens it up and peels away all those layers.
Me too, me too. And how one thing about the book that I thought was interesting is that there are the two versions. There's the hard cover coffee table version that has all the colors in it, and then there's the paperback version that has different information in it and different photos than the coffee table book. So what how did you decide where to plug in some of that extra information that you got? Maybe did you discover it afterward, or I mean, how did you end up doing extra and figuring out where to plug that in the paperback?
Some of the information was already available. It just ended up kind of being on the chopping block during the editing process in terms of, this section is running a little long. And I did have, I kind of already knew with the hardcover, the book that I could create, how many pages and, the layout, how it was working, how it wasn't working. And Peter Brackey, who, fans will know as the writer of Crystal Lake Memories, the book, you know, did such an amazing, jaw-droppingly gorgeous job laying out that book. He was really instrumental in helping me shape what could fit and what couldn't. And then I would talk to Lito Velasco, who was the editor of the book, and I would say, listen, frankly, it's space limitations. Here's what I have. Here's what I want to keep. Here's what I think can go. But what do you think? So it was kind of this round robin discussion of logistics and creative. So some of the things that went into the paperback are things that I had that I just couldn't fit. But I decided that I wanted the paperback not to just be like, hey, here's a paperback, throwing it at you. I wanted to do something that made the paperback, more wantable, I guess, for lack of a better word that I don't even know if it exists. But I was like, let's see what else I can dig up. So I talked to people again and I asked more questions and I got, a bunch more anecdotes and things like that. So it just ended up kind of working out organically that the paperback I could fit a little more because the print is, as many people know, it's quite small. But it allowed me to share a little more of the story here and there in bits and pieces. So I was really happy with that. And I think both versions are great. I think, the hardcover paperback, I think the hardcover edition is the beautiful coffee table, open it up to your favorite spread kind of version. But the paperback is this super accessible for anybody who likes movies, but doesn't love them enough to have Freddie sitting out on their kitchen table for all to see. The paperback is a really good resource for people who love, the behind the scenes making of movies and the trials and tribulations. I mean, frankly, we all know Elm Street really was the little movie that could. It almost didn't, but it did. And I think that's such a great story.
It is, they're both fantastic reads. So anybody who out there hasn't picked up their copy of the paperback, because surprisingly, every so often I find people will say, there was a paperback version?
I
I
know,
didn't,
I
I'm
know.
what? And so, yeah, you guys can order it off of Amazon. I know I've ordered it and had it for some giveaways, and it's always a hot item. So definitely everybody check that out if you haven't already. But we're gonna go way back in time to kind of the beginning of basically how you got where you are now, starting out with writing. I know that everybody who is in entertainment always has some source of inspiration, whether it was somebody that they know or something that they just caught on to. Like I have a couple friends who are costume designers, and the plot kind of slips into the background as the costumes rise to the front of whatever they're watching at that time. But for you, you're a writer, not only for books but also for films and all kinds of things. So how did you get into writing, and was there somebody who influenced you?
I would probably say that I've always been a writer. I remember I was a kid and I was always writing stories. I remember my dad brought home this old, gigantic, super heavy typewriter that I'd have to ask him to carry from room to room if I was moving. And I was always plunking away on that, writing little stories. And I remember the very first thing I wrote that I felt like this is it, this is really good, was a short story called Gremlins 2 Gizmo Returns, which my fourth grade teacher was going to let me read in front of the class, but ultimately didn't because I did something and that was my punishment. But I feel like writing has always been something inside me. And, I ended up going to UCLA, but not for anything super creative. I went for communication studies and studied human communication and a lot of business courses. And I ended up working at a talent agency. And that opened up a lot of doors because you meet so many people. And through those relationships, I ended up getting a job at Warner Brothers Animation, working in creative affairs, and they were in charge of the development of their projects. And, one day I had heard through the grapevine, and then it came across my desk that, the department was looking for new ideas for Scooby-Doo direct-to-video movies, which were, super great, and they're still, turning them out, and they're so much fun. And my writing partner at the time, Catherine, she and I came up with a bunch of ideas, and they liked one of them and they did their thing and tested it and went through the development, and we wrote drafts of the script and it got made, and ultimately we ended up getting the story credit, which was really great. It was such a fantastic introduction to really the world of professional writing for a huge character and franchise, learning what you can say and can't say and what a character would do versus what they wouldn't do. I mean, it was such a great boot camp. We ended up doing some additional concept work for another Scooby-Doo movie. The first was Scooby-Doo and Where's My Mummy? It takes place in Egypt, really fun. And then the other one is Chill Out Scooby-Doo with, the abominable snow monster. So from there, that really got us the tiny foothold we needed to open up that writing door. And we just started taking meetings and writing other things and developing things. And, one thing kind of led to another. And I got into the documentary game as sort of like a detour, which I absolutely love. I'm so glad that happened. And it just kind of, snowballed in terms of, taking meetings and writing scripts. And I've been really lucky. I've written some really fun TV movies. I've sold some scripts that haven't been made. I've developed some really fantastic things that I'm hoping will get made. It was a matter of just staying, in front of the computer and really hammering out things that spoke to me and my writing partner at the time and continuing to do that.
And you certainly have been. I know that fairly recently you had your novel Jinxed come out, which is kind of where innocent childhood superstitions have gone wrong. Um, can you talk a little bit about that book? And then I kind of have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah. Jinxed was always something that I had wanted to do in the sense that I love the milieu of performing arts. When I was younger, I went to a performing arts academy, and I just have so many strong, really like deeply rooted memories of being there and performing and the people and the friends that I made and how everything felt so heightened. I mean, it's sort of like the cliche and almost a joke. Like people would be like, "What did you do? Like sing in the hallways?" And I'm like, "Yeah, people would sing in the hallways. People were dancing in the hallways. It was not as choreographed and wonderful as Fame, but it was happening, and everything always felt not in a bad way, but sort of like an 11. Like everything mattered and everyone had this idea of what they wanted to be. And, there were some people who definitely wanted it more, but, people had ideas about what they wanted to do and how they wanted to get there. And I always thought, what a great place to set a horror movie, to set a slasher. Someone is being, someone is taking advantage of this closed off locale and taking advantage of the things that these kids want and need and desire and turning it against them, and one by one, taking them down. And the idea of the comedy and the tragedy and how those two interplay, it just all snowballed into this, idea that I really wanted to sink my teeth into. So, I ended up writing the book, and, that's that.
And I know a lot of reviewers have given it high praise, calling it a must-read throwback to beloved slashers. So that kind of, I know that you have been a big horror fan for a long time. And of course, you know the horror world so well with the documentaries that you've worked on and the books and everything. So when you were writing it, I mean, to make something good great, and especially something like a slasher story, what do you think makes a good slasher story? And even if it's a film or a book, I mean, what elements of storytelling need to make it stand out from, say, everything else that's produced? What do you think?
I mean, for me, I think it's a good mystery. I think you want to know not only who's under the mask, but why. I remember as a kid, every Friday the 13th, I just couldn't wait for Jason's mask to come off. I mean, I know who's under the mask, but you're waiting to see what he looks like. And then you have, someone like Freddy, who's just, in his way, completely terrifying and yet equally as charismatic, but with that great mystery. Like, why is he doing this? And then it's revealed, and you're like, oh my God, I get it. It makes so much sense. And I wanted to do something to combine those. The book is absolutely a throwback to the 80s and 90s slashers. It's a masked killer in a secluded location, killing people for a specific reason, with one person who ultimately figures it out, and they have to survive to, get the truth out there and not, be murdered themselves. And they have a great mask. I mean, the mask that they wear is this kind of frightening amalgamation of the comedy and tragedy masks. And it's just something that I think really, really works when you have an interesting character with a good backstory, with a good reason, and along the way, the mystery is being unpeeled, the layers are coming off one by one, and you aren't sure who's going to make it, and you're not sure who is, but it all makes sense in the end. And I think for me, those 80s and 90s slashers really, really understood how to do that. And you got to have your gore content. You got to want, interesting, innovative, fun kills, people almost getting away, but then not getting away, and those moments where you scream and then you laugh and then you take a breath and rinse and repeat.
Yeah, for sure. I know that, yeah, those elements are so critical. I mean, there's so many slasher films out there, films in general, where it's kind of like, what did the killer look like again, and what exactly happened? So making those really stand out is certainly extremely important. Do you think you'll ever maybe adapt the book into a film?
There is definitely a desire for me to do that. Actually, funny enough, a lot of the reviews are saying, when is the movie coming out? This is a movie. I think a new review that just came out recently started with something like, Tommy Hutson's Jinxed in theaters now is what I want to say after reading this book. So it's really nice that people are getting that, because without question, I want the book to be a really visual, visceral experience. I want people to feel that they're not just seeing it in their mind as they're reading it, but seeing it on the big screen as they're reading it. And people so far are really getting that. I mean, it was built to kind of be more than just a movie in one's mind. I think there really is a really fun movie to be had in Jinxed. And I set it up, there's definitely a cliffhanger ending on book one, which plays really well into book two, which I'm working on now. So I'm really excited about the future of Jinxed. I really hope something exciting happens with it.
That's so awesome. The slasher genre is my favorite, so I know that a lot of people are hoping that the slashers make a comeback, and
Yes.
maybe this will be the next big modern slasher. So, congratulations on the success of Jinxed. So, what's
Thank you.
next for you right now?
I am, like I said, I'm working on book two, Jinxed 2. It's called Cursed. And I am also writing another TV movie, a teen thriller, which is a lot of fun. And I have some other things cooking that are just, in the development hopper, some ideas that I want to get out there. And again, doing the writing thing, just, putting words down on paper, taking meetings, talking to people, and just enjoying it all.
Do you have any other movies or documentaries coming up or anything? Anything we might be able to look forward to in the near future? Anything you could
Yes,
talk about?
actually, yes, actually,
Sweet.
I'm excited for a new movie that's going to be coming out. It is called The Final Wish, and it is co-written by Jeffrey Reddick, who everyone knows in your audience, I'm sure, the creator of Final Destination. He and I were two of the producers on the film, and really excited about it. It stars Lynn Shay with Tony Todd, and it's this great gothic supernatural kind of thriller. I had a really great premiere, one night premiere through Fathom Events theatrically, so that was really, really great. And there's going to be another rollout with some more news coming up, I believe, in February. So everyone should just kind of keep their eye out for The Final Wish. And I'm really, really proud of it. It looks so fantastic. Timothy Woodward Jr. was the director. It's just visually stunning. It's super fun. It has some great scary moments. So I think fans are going to get a kick out of it.
And of course, you guys can also check out one of his other recent films, Truth or Dare. Scary concept, super scary concept, but check it out. If you haven't watched it yet, you can definitely find it online. And
I think it's on
yeah,
Netflix,
it's
and
on Netflix.
it's been trending for a while, and I'm so happy that it's kind of like this movie that people keep discovering over and over again. And every once in a while, I'll get on Twitter and I'll find people talking about it, and I'll tweet at them, and they're just having such a blast. And that was great. Nick Simon was the director of that, and we had such a great time, just going back and forth and figuring out things. And I loved writing that movie. It was fun. It was scary. I loved the characters. It was snarky. It kind of hit all the buttons I love to hit when I'm writing something. I definitely like to have my characters, have a little snark and bite to them. Especially when you're in a heightened situation and about to die. You got to have that, one character who says something highly inappropriate.
You got to have the Deandras of the world. I'm just kidding. Anywho, thank you so much for your time, Thommy. I really appreciate it. I look forward to what you do in the future, especially The Final Wish. It sounds awesome. And of course, everybody, you can find Thommy online, and I don't know, any of your particular handles you want to call out. I know you're super
I
active
would
on Twitter.
I love Twitter. I love tweeting. So yeah, I'm on Twitter. It's just at Thommy Hutson. I'm on Instagram. It's at Thommy Hutson. I kept it pretty simple. But yeah, come follow, join, talk to me, talk at me. Just don't talk about me unless it's all good.
For sure. Anywho, Thommy, thanks so much for stopping by here, and we'll see what is happening in the future for you. So,
Yeah, I hope we
looking
meet up
forward
again
to
on Elm
it
Street.
for sure. Well,
All
guys,
right.
until next time, this has been Deandra and, of course, Thommy, and you've been listening to Elm Street Radio. Remember, whatever you do, don't fall asleep.